how I became an energy healer and a soul guide to women as a business manager who was in the middle of believing that there was more to life, but also very stuck in the way that things were. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you to transcend the matrix, because our human life, our very humanity here, it is sacred. It is a huge purpose, and there's a reason why we are here. So while you're learning about spirituality, just remember that you bridge spirituality into the physical and vice versa. It's not one or the other to me. They both need to be embodied fully if you want to lead a high conscious life. So I'm not going to tell you to transcend this matrix, because really you are the matrix. Do you remember the movie The Matrix? And how Neo was able to transcend that, and have that work in his favor? This is why I'm a soul guide. So let's not get into spiritual hierarchy and have it where it contradicts our humility as well as unity consciousness. Because once we do that, that's when you're in spiritual ego. So back to me being a business manager and going into this line of work as a career instead. So I was a busy store manager for a big chain. I had been already there for quite some time at this point in time. I've been working there 8 years. And for a good 4 or 5 years of that, I was supervising and then into management, and then I was going into higher corporate status, what I was working towards. I often worked in multiple locations. I did all the HR. I also did all the P&Ls, and we had one of the busiest and most efficient stores in Western Canada. I absolutely loved business management. I was really good at it. I love creating systems. I love creating harmony and order, making sure that things are running smoothly and that all the employees were happy, because that's who I was. I treated our employees like people. But I also knew that as I started getting older, because I started there when I was 15, I started supervising at 16, had my own store by the time I was 18. So as I got older and into my late teens, early 20s, I started wondering, what more is there for me? Sure, I could climb this corporate ladder. I could do that. But what do I really want to do? And I had a hard time. I even went back to university. I did anatomy and physiology, trying to find things that really spoke to me, and nothing really did. I couldn't figure out what I wanted my career to be. So back in my early 20s, I had a lot of health issues. I had severe lower back pain that was debilitating. So when I wasn't working, I was bedridden, and often, I would be halfway through my shift and I'd be hunched over like an old lady because my back hurt so badly, and it started limiting me to what I was actually able to do while I was working. And the doctors, they only tell you to take Tylenol, take Advil, that sort of thing. And no one was really figuring out what was going on. They didn't do any scans. They did nothing to figure out what was happening because I was so young. They just kept saying things like, you're young and healthy, ride it out. And that's just typically what I heard from the ages of 14 onwards. Had insomnia, had, lots of physical pain, lots of fatigue. And this is supposed to be one of the best times of my life, the most energized, or I'm having the most fun. And realistically, all I did was work and sleep, and also drink, because I needed to numb the pain somehow, and nothing else worked for me. And this just was the life that I wanted. And I didn't know how else I could be of service to this planet. I knew I wanted to help people. I just didn't know how. And I just could not find my calling, no matter how much research I did, no matter what I looked at. There were so many things that I was grappling with. I'm like, okay, do I do makeup artistry and special effects because I'm really good at special effects makeup? Do I go into law because I really love law and I love helping people that way too? Do I do marine biology because I love science? I was really good at science. I had a lot of things I was really, really good at, and nothing felt like a calling. And because of all my physical pain, someone I knew offered me a session. She's like, I'm learning this modality. It's pretty amazing. And I know you've been dealing with a lot of health issues. Just come in and see what happens. So I said, okay. Because even up to this point, I was doing massage therapy. I was doing reflexology, way back in the day where it wasn't as well known. This was over 14 years ago. And I said, okay, I'll come in for an energy session. Never heard of it before, don't know what it's about. Yes, I felt like I was kind of intuitive growing up, and now looking back, I know I was really intuitive, but we all are, because We all have that capability, just FYI. And I do not subscribe that only special people are intuitive, because that's a bunch of BS. We all got it. But anyway, going back into this, I had a session. My pain resolved within a day. And I was just hooked from there. I'm like, whoa, how could you know what's going on in my body? How did it have that huge of an effect? I just went straight into training. I was like, okay, when is the next course? And I found the fundamentals course, dived right in. Within 5 months after the first course, I was certified, and I was starting to put together my own first business. So I was still working for my kind of corporate job at the time. And then another huge health issue came up for me. And it was one that required consistent treatments for a period of time. It's not like it's just something you could get over in a week. You know, it wasn't like a flu. And the problem was, you know, I was working overtime. I was working sometimes 60, 80, 100-hour weeks. I was working a lot, double shifts, sometimes consistent days. I remember one paycheck I got was like an insane amount. It was like 120 hours or whatever. And funny, they tried to not pay me overtime, which was insane. And anyway, fought that one. But regardless, I was working a lot, and all I needed was 1 day a week to be off an hour and a half early so I could go to my treatments. What I was met with was, okay, so you take a month off, you get better and come back, otherwise you're replaceable. The minute they said that, I was like, really? I continued on with my treatments. I also started looking into the future. Is this really where I want to be? People that don't care about my well-being. I know business is business, but to be treated like a number and not someone that has been there for, 5, 6, 7, 8 years and has sacrificed and given so much. That's where I learned to not do those things for that reason. So what I did was, when I was getting close to the end of my treatments, I went to a different city. I flew to a different city. I applied for a job at a clinic, gave them all my certifications, and I was hired that day. I went back and said, I'm replaceable, replace me. Here's my 2 weeks notice. And they were, not happy, but I was like, well, you said I was replaceable, so here we are, here I am. And I moved provinces. I got up, I left, and I didn't look back. It took me less than a year to have a fully booked out practice with a wait list. And since then, it's been 13 years. I've done over 13,000 sessions. I've worked with thousands of women worldwide in my business, and I have never looked back. This is why I love doing what I do, because I started getting regular treatments myself, started healing from some crazy things. I'm now 36, not 22, not debilitated at all, not bedridden. I have a 9-year-old. I have, a really amazing practice at home. I work out of a clinic where I live now as well. And overall, my health and my energy levels are the highest that they have ever been in my life. And I'm so glad I took that leap of faith and went all in on me and my dreams once I found what was my calling. And this is why I'm doing this, because as soon as I knew this is what you're meant to do, I didn't just stop there. I continued learning. I've done soul realignment training. I've done Reiki mastery training. I train Reiki masters. I do guidance. I do long-term support. I do long-term guidance for my clients. And this is why many stay with me long-term. Sometimes I have clients that have been with me for a decade, not because they're not healing, but because they have a level of support that they need to get to their next levels in life. And we all need a guide and a mentor. I have them as well. And I realized just how many atmospheres and environments are just really unhealthy. And if we all knew these parts of ourselves, our unique gifts that we bring to this world, then we would be able to change so much from within. And we wouldn't have to all technically leave to make big changes. And this is what I help people with, is to figure out if they're doing the right things, if they're in the right job, right position, if they're living by their soul gifts, if they even know what that is and who that is. And I get women into a coherent state, heart, body, mind, and spirit. So they are confident in who they are. But that's how I got here.